Welcome to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for watching. All right, I've got Joe Ciccolo, founder and president of BitAML, on the show with me today. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
All right, Joe, how did you transition from the world of traditional banking into crypto, and what did your old banker friends think of this move, think of this career choice?
Well, so 3.5 years ago, I think it was a really brave choice, as evidenced by my colleagues sort of snickering about this Bitcoin and crypto thing being a fad and probably not working to the best of their estimation. But no, the transition was actually quite interesting. The knowledge I'd accumulated in banking was invaluable and certainly helped me with respect to compliance in the crypto world. Just the playbook was a little different, right? So we went from long timelines and turnaround times and expectations that were a lot different in banking into crypto, but a lot of the compliance requirements were relatively the same. There were some tweaks and some things to learn along the way, but nonetheless, my time in traditional banking really informed me as to the compliance nature of things. Obviously, it took some getting used to moving away from the confines of a traditional banking environment and getting into a more fluid environment in crypto.
Tell me about BitAML.
Sure. So here at BitAML, we do regulatory compliance consulting for the crypto world. And so what that generally means is helping our clients establish that first set of AML compliance documents. So having a written AML compliance program, but also helping some of our larger clients to build out their compliance infrastructure up to and including applying for state licensure and otherwise working with and cooperating with regulators as they go through the registration and licensing process.
What do you tell people that want to start a crypto company?
Do a lot of homework. Some of our best clients come to us with so much information already, even in compliance, believe it or not. They seem to be well researched and well schooled. It's about knowing the landscape, right? It's not just compliance. It's about knowing the business models, who are the different players out there. So for example, crypto kiosk or ATM operator, knowing what the customer base looks like, what markets might be beneficial to be in, both in terms of sales and revenue potential, but also in terms of what are the regulatory expectations and how realistic they are. And it's really great to see that a lot of our clients have done their homework and can really hold a conversation with us and talk and participate in their compliance strategy as we begin to help shape that with them.
Now, Bitcoin as an innovation, not a speculative asset. Let's explore that, because
sure,
there's a lot of utility, security, there's a lot of gray area there.
Yeah, so with respect to tokens and utility and security, I almost feel like the definition of utility token, to the extent there was one, has been kind of stretched by the industry. There were some efforts early on for some folks in the industry to make the case that they weren't a security. And bottom line, and the regulators have been clear about this, and especially the SEC, in saying that in cases of token or securities like application, generally think of yourself as a security first, and then build around that to the extent that there may be an exception for your particular business model. So the goalposts have been set in that respect, and it really requires you as a business owner to do your homework, make sure you know and understand what the requirements are, and work with competent legal counsel, not just compliance folks like ourselves, but also work with legal counsel to really establish what parameters are around your business model, because it's based on facts and circumstances. In the world of banking, some people think everything's black and white, when in reality it's a lot of shades of gray. So you really have to know and understand where your business model fits and what facts and circumstances there are to your business model will ultimately dictate how you're regulated and to what extent you may be regulated.
Speaking of that, what do regulators think of crypto, and how about law enforcement? What's their take on crypto?
Sure. So I think the regulators have really done their homework. I think there's been a lot of trial by fire. I think certainly some of my clients and those in the industry would say that it's been a little rocky road early on, but the regulators have really found their groove. They're beginning to understand where different pieces fit together and how to oversee things. And I think the industry has done itself a great service by really starting to embrace regulation and knowing and understanding that they have to comply And I think, maybe that to those that are sort of hardline Satoshi followers, that may be a little tough to swallow. But I think the industry has sort of come around and understanding where they need to be. And I think the regulators have responded as such. And I think at least early on, I think the regulators had a great deal of restraint. And have been more interested in helping those in the industry build their compliance. Now, that isn't to say that we should, take a break and not get involved in compliance. It is to say that if you are putting forward the effort, you're putting your best foot forward in a compliance standpoint, the regulators tend to look at that favorably and want to have a dialogue and work with you, which has been a great positive. And I'd say many of our clients and friends in industry would agree with that. Regarding the second point of your question with respect to law enforcement generally had more of a positive feedback than we're led to believe. We work with a number of clients in the crypto ATM space, and they have said that their interactions with law enforcement have been extremely positive. Grant you that they've been cooperative with law enforcement, so that goes a long way towards having that positive dialogue. But what they've generally found is that law enforcement appreciates their efforts and is much more interested in catching bad guys than looking at the nuances of someone's controls at the time of a transaction, that they're much more interested in working together. And that collaborative effort has been positive. And we've also heard from law enforcement that they appreciate and understand the power of the blockchain technology in order to track down illicit funds and ultimately catch the bad guys. And in fact, some law enforcement officers have actually quipped that they appreciate the bad guys using the blockchain because that leaves an immutable record of their transactions. So it's not this anonymous currency that many people have said from day one, that in fact there is some value and certainly some old-fashioned police activities can be used to track funds. So a lot more of a positive for law enforcement than maybe some have led us to believe.
Joe, the crypto industry can teach traditional bankers a thing or two about compliance, and RegTech really wasn't possible without fintech and crypto. So tell us how things have been changing in that industry sector.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I think without fintech, Bitcoin, and blockchain, we don't have RegTech. And so for those that are unfamiliar, RegTech is sort of a buzz term. It's sort of the nexus between regulatory compliance and technology, right? So as the industry has shifted and we've gotten more customer focused, more experiential, more contextual, we're using apps and new technology and fintech and Bitcoin and blockchain. As these things have come up, the expectations from the consumer have steadily risen. And we can't use old-fashioned compliance techniques and technologies if we want to have that speed, that efficiency, and that overall customer experience. And so within the crypto space, having that blank slate when you come into the space and saying, okay, well, these are the things I need to comply, but I still want to have that customer experience, you begin to reshape how you apply compliance. You're not taking away from the compliance and what needs to be done, certainly, but at the same time, you understand that there's a way in which you can do it that maybe the banks haven't thought of, or the banks haven't really need to have had any thought about, because as the expression goes, a bank is a bank is a bank.
Got it. Now, about you, though, how have things changed in the 3.5 years since you've got this company off the ground?
I feel like they change every day, and maybe even every hour some days. Some of the perceptions and some of the interactions from different state-level regulators have changed in that period of time. A lot of perceptions from the industry. Even some of our clients have shaped their perceptions over time of the space. So there's never a dull moment, and it's constantly evolving and constantly changing.
What innovations and ideas are in the works at BitAML?
Sure. So we're working on a number of different technologies to help our clients not only to maintain their compliance with respect to their compliance program, but also to be able to track and stay on top of any developments in the space and to be able to augment their policies in response to that. So historically, AML and AML documents and AML programs, written documents and policies and procedures have just been these static sort of documents. And so we're working right now to make them living, breathing documents that can actually interact with the volumes of transactions and all these records we have. We live in a very data-driven world, and it seems to me that unfortunately regulatory compliance hasn't really caught up, that there's a lot of static and stagnant, documents or spreadsheets or things like that. So we're really working to bring that all together and allow our clients to not just have a written compliance program that could show a regulator, but actually be able to interact with their documentation, interact with their overall compliance strategy. So we're very excited about where that brings us and the road ahead.
How about the future of crypto and crypto regulation?
Sure. I think it's easy to say that it's going to continue to evolve. I think that's kind of a given. I think we're going to see the states slowly start to individually require state licensing. I think that's sort of a little bit of a foregone conclusion. It's going to take a little time, but I think the states have slowly realized that there's an opportunity to license and have these companies participate as with traditional money transmitters in the space. And I think early on, the regulators were waiting, at least at the state level, to see if this really took off, to see if there's really some energy, if it wasn't just going to be a handful of companies. But I think as more and more entrants get into the space, that's sort of becoming a foregone conclusion. I think the SEC and the CFTC will continue to have enforcement actions and be able to shape the industry through those enforcement actions. It's unfortunate, but I think that's the way that the industry is going to be shaped in terms of regulation at the securities and commodities level. But again, getting back to the money transmitters, I think the states are going to be participating in a lot of changes there, whereas I think FinCEN has coming out with their initial guidance. They've stuck to it. They haven't really made too many changes to that, just specifying some exceptions. I don't see too much movement there.
Got it. Joe, thanks for being a guest on the show.
My pleasure, Michael. Thank you.
Don't forget, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching CEO Money with Michael Yorba.